Mike, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Frank. Welcome back.
Yes, it's good to be back.
Back in the studio. Beautiful Monday morning here in Arizona, and we're ready to kick things off.
Yeah, we're still lucking out with this weather, I tell you.
I know. It's been great.
Yeah, it was like 70-something this morning.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't worry. The heat's coming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've lived in Arizona my whole life, and it never gets easier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Today's going to be a great episode. I'm very excited for this one.
I'm excited, too, because you did most of the study on this. So
this one's going to be a good one because it's interesting. So a little backstory. So today we're going to be covering Ramtha, a channeled entity. But the reason I brought this to Frank and said, hey, we need to do this is I was on some sort of social media page, and some gentleman I follow posted this thing about Dr. Joe Dispenza and his relationship to the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. Yeah. And this was the first time I had heard about that. And we've done a ton of, research and, episodes on Dr. Joe. I love Dr. Joe. You've been to his, actual events, his in-person events, and we're fans of Dr. Joe. And this was new to me. So I was like, hey, I don't think a lot of people know about this. This would be a cool episode to kind of cover the history where Dr. Joe kind of got into this, if you will.
Yeah, and I knew they were on What the Bleep Do We Know together.
Yep,
and
correct.
I know of Ramtha, because there was a point where
it started in the 80s.
Yeah, like again, I didn't know it that far back, but when I started getting into these channels, I think the first one was like Abraham, and then it led me to Jane Roberts and Seth.
Yeah.
And Adamus. There's a couple of other ones. Obviously, Bashar.
Of course, Bashar.
And then I remember pulling up Ramtha. And all the ones, there's a lot of them out there. But the ones I'm talking about were very, I was very curious about because they're very interesting. And Ramtha was very interesting because her energy is like, she's like, what's wrong with you human beings? You go to the bathroom and you look at it. And it's like, I'm like, that's... it's interesting. I got a kick out of it,
That's funny.
But they're like you could hear and sense the truth or information coming through all of them. And there's something there. It's just each one of them have different characters.
Yep.
And then I remember when What the Bleep came out, that's where Joe Dispenza got noticed. But when I saw her in there, I already knew who she was. And I think that came out like in 2007. What the Bleep, came out
that long ago, huh?
Yeah, I can't remember the year it came out, but it's been a while. But I didn't know that the connection that you told me about today.
It's fascinating.
And I'm about to learn something.
It's going to be a good episode.
I did no studying on this, by the way.
We're going to dive right into it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It is.
Yeah.
So I got a couple clips for us that, we'll kick things off with, but a little like background history. So who is Ramtha? Ramtha is a channeled entity that's supposed to be 35,000 years old, a Lumerian warrior. That's like who the entity is that's channeling and coming through the lady. Well, the lady's name is J.Z. Knight, or she goes by J.Z. Knight, which is Judith Zebra Knight. That's what her nickname or something like that. But her real name is Judith Darlene Hampton, and she was born in 1946. I think like the Washington area or something like that, it was saying. But she channels the entity Ramtha, and then she started the Ramtha School of Enlightenment in 1988.
Yeah, and is that like up in Oregon?
That's Washington.
Washington, Seattle.
Yep, Washington.
Or Washington, yeah.
Yep. And so this Ramtha School of Enlightenment, though, is where I think the history with Dr. Joe kind of begins. So I tried to like deep dive and find stuff of like Dr. Joe talking about the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. I couldn't find anything. I was trying to find connections between the two, and there's like very minimal stuff online about this. And so I think Dr. Joe got his start, at the, not his personal start, but he started to learn about these concepts, learn about consciousness, learn about what this reality is through the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. And that's why I thought this connection was so important, because it gives you a good backstory to who Dr. Joe is, how he got into this stuff, how he got into these topics. And then the most fascinating thing, and the reason I wanted to cover this on this episode, is in 2022, the Ramtha School of Enlightenment sued Dr. Joe, claiming he was stealing their intellectual property and teaching meditation techniques that were Ramthas, that he learned from Ramtha, and that he was, stealing their property essentially. Well, Dr. Joe won. There wasn't it won the actual like legal battle. He did not have to pay any money. They sued him for like $12 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money, And they try to get like future work that, he's put out, things that, he's being paid for that he released in the past. They said, hey, you're stealing this intellectual property. Well, Dr. Joe lawyered up,
Yeah.
handled the case, and walked out. And so I think that is such a cool little backstory for people who are fans of Dr. Joe's work, like Frank and I. And so this is why we chose Ramtha today. The first clip I have is a clip of Judith Darlene Hampton talking about how she got into channeling Ramtha, which I thought was kind of cool.
And so this one is just an interview, right? She's not channeling.
Correct. She is not Ramtha in this. So like we were talking about, like Abraham and Esther Hicks, right? So Abraham,
Darryl Anka,
Darryl Anka and Bashar, same type of thing. So she is Jay-Z Knight, and that's how she's being interviewed, and then she channels Ramtha, and then I've got, of course, a clip of her or Ramtha being channeled.
Okay, perfect, good.
Cool. So let's kick it off.
Do you want to kick it off?
The story is fairly well known. 1977, my husband and I was a dentist, and as you know, we live in this lovely Pacific Northwest up into Canada, and we were hikers. We were part of a club that hiked, and I had 2 young children, 2 sons in grade school. And we were just making pyramids. I mean, I was a dentist wife, and we were making pyramids because pyramids at that time was the rage, pyramid energy, pyramid this, pyramid that. And if you go back to 1977, you'll see that, in fact, that's what it was. And what we were doing, sort of through a scientific mind, was to conduct our own tests to make these little pyramids to scale and align them to true north. And so we had a cacophony of things underneath. The means to the end, of course, is how could we lighten our backpacks, and if we could preserve food. I mean, what a great idea. So we started that on a Friday night in our house, pulled down the shades in case anybody saw us doing anything strange. Wouldn't let the children come in. And so we had little pyramids, all over my kitchen. I had my oven doors open. I had things on them. And my husband would go along and make sure they hadn't been disturbed, that they were aligned. So we had compasses. And that was on a Friday night. And we were just full on in remarkable yet hidden discoveries. And Sunday, we were up all night, and then most of the day Saturday doing this and checking on our test items like bologna, milk, wine, razor blades. All the things that they said it would work on. And about 2:30, we were just sitting at the table. You couldn't walk through my kitchen or dining room without disturbing these little pyramid Egyptian models. And so I just put one on my head and started laughing. I said, well, maybe it will help my brain. And it was at 2:30 on Sunday, not at night, but in the afternoon. And this light filled into the kitchen, and the compass on the table started spinning like an airplane. It started whining, and there was this being. You can read more about how that all happened in my book, A State of Mind, that was published in 1987. And once you read that, you'll understand that this was something I wasn't searching for. This is something that happened to me, and continued the path for the next 39 years and changed my life tremendously. I didn't even know who Edgar Casey was, so I was pretty much a greenhorn, but loved God always. And so this is how my experience happened. And the fact that I don't just open my mouth and some dude speaks out, it was actually a process of training for about 2 years. And we have just recently completed DNA tests with 3 labs and 1 major lab to confirm all the 3 blind test labs across the states. And my DNA is different than Ramtha's, and that just made medical history. So it's not something that I just go into some sort of trance. I don't trance. I don't I don't meditate. I don't do any of that. I just leave my body. And the results that were underwent in 1996, 2-year study, scientific study, found, in fact, that there was a phenomenon that went on that was a major sort of thing. So I sort of have near-death experiences, and I've been having them for 39 years. Ramtha is the being who coined the term channeling that became very popular in our lexicon today, because I wasn't in a trance. I wasn't aware. I wasn't, I was gone. I went down this tunnel. I don't even remember ever having done that, but once on the other side, then I did see and remember. So this is what started Ramtha's great iconic movement in the 80s, and he was a 1980s icon. And his message was very simple. It was, behold God, that God was something not in religion, and God was not insecure. You could call it anything and everything, because it was, and that inside of us we were all essentially divine beings, and went on with that message that sort of cleaned up the spiritual New Age community to where that focus became upon the divinity of people rather than the phenomenon that sometimes gets way out there and it becomes laughable.
It's interesting about that. A lot of the channelers I follow were like in and around that time. So something must have been happening.
Right.
I obviously wasn't involved in it. But yeah, like Bashar, it was around that time.
That
80s.
is cool.
Yeah, because Bashar's been doing it for 40 years now. And obviously, I don't know how old this interview is, but yeah.
That is a cool little anecdote that, people were kind of breaking through at the same time with this, channeling.
And they weren't looking for it. Like even Abraham wasn't looking for it. She was kind of freaked. Like Jerry, her husband, Jerry Hicks, was into all this stuff. He listened to Jane Roberts and stuff. And it would kind of freak her out, Esther. And so one day he just took her and started meditating in her story. So it's very interesting. So a lot of these channels weren't necessarily looking for it. It just came into maybe they were curious about something. It just came into them. Kind of like an alien or a spaceship landing and taking somebody up. It wasn't you asked for. It just happened.
It just kind of happened. And I thought that was cool. I love how she said, the main message that Ramtha came here to share is, behold God.
Yeah.
God is everything. We're all divine beings. Like these are all concepts that come up, from all the greatest teachers.
Yeah.
And I think that was cool because I think the message was great there. Like anything, there's a kind of a history about Ramtha as far as like that's controversial. There's people that labeled it as a cult. I don't know if this was just because of what was going on during late 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah, it was the time, because I think anyone that shared this type of information would have been like a cult. But the distinction between a cult, the way I see it, is someone's offering up information, but they don't place it out there as if you stay with me, I'll reveal more. You must stay here. It doesn't matter, because like there's only one message that God gives. But then there's a million messengers. And so when you listen to Ramtha, Cryon, Bashar, Abraham,
all of
a myriad of other ones, the information, the message is the same, but the information there's a different texture to it, a different attitude towards it. But, and that's why, like, if you resonate, like I've seen people that didn't resonate with one, like, I don't like, her information's not good. I'm like, no, it's good. It's like, it's the information. You may not resonate with it, but don't knock it. It might not be for you.
I think the cool part for me, like researching this, was seeing like, again, there's little information on like that connects Dr. Joe to Ramtha or the School of Enlightenment, and I think that was because of the lawsuit. I'm sure certain things were taken down or not, talked about or anything like that. But it's cool because it like gives you an insight to like what piqued Dr. Joe's interest and got him going on this path. And I feel like Ramtha, in this School of Enlightenment, really had an impact on him to dive deeper into these concepts and then develop it into his own, like he teaches today.
Yeah, and obviously I've been to his stuff, and because I've studied Dr. Joe a lot, but he mentioned early on, like especially when he had his accident on his bicycle, and he was pretty much crushed his spine or what have you. And he said he was already working on consciousness prior to that.
Yep.
But he didn't mention any, like, where the information would come. He would just put it out there. And he probably did it because, like, oh, yeah, I was going to a channel up in, Washington. And people are like, okay.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Dr. Joe, he actually talks about this early on. He doesn't really care about it now, but there was a moment in time when he was writing about this information and he was too scared to come out because he was in the medical field, so to speak. So he wanted to seem legitimate. So by talking about this, in his eyes, from what we call, say, the ego part of him, was saying, yeah, I'll be ridiculed and stuff like that. But then one day he's like, F it, I'm just going to start writing about this stuff. And so, yeah, there probably was a long history behind that, but he came from the intellectual mind, going to school to become a doctor and all this other stuff. But then we revealed this information that, hey, this channel taught me all this stuff, right? It's
right.
like, yeah. Well, I can imagine it'd be very difficult. And sometimes, because obviously Dr. Joe is very popular, so a lot of people gravitate towards him because he comes from the Western medical side of things, but then he's actually easing up. Like, he doesn't use the word chakras, he uses the word energy centers. And I get why he's doing it.
He's very calculated.
Yeah, but for good reason, because most people would just some people hear words and
the mind turns it off.
They're triggered.
Yep, exactly. They're like, chakra, oh, that's too woo-woo for me.
Oh my God, yep, I'm going to be selling days on the side of the road with a shaved head.
That's too hippie for me. Yeah, you're exactly right. Well,
Yeah.
and that's what I was telling you before we got on air, which I thought was like, so Dr. Joe, if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I love these concepts, or I'm trying to, learn more about this, or somebody's just getting their feet wet when it comes to consciousness, manifestation, all of the above. One of the first people I will recommend to someone is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I do that strategically because for me, Dr. Joe was like the guy who gave me buy-in. And the reason being is it wasn't, he was never woo-woo about these concepts. It always came from neuroscience. It always came from the subconscious. He explained the concepts in a way where I was like, oh, this is medically, scientifically, factual. This is very clear, and it gives you more buy-in. And so I think in a way, over the years, he's purposely tried to distance himself, from any type of channeled entity or things that could be considered woo-woo.
Yeah.
And I think he did that on purpose. And I think, like you're saying, it is related to the fact that he wanted to take this neuroscience medical approach to his work, which I appreciate and I think is awesome. And it helps people who are on the fence buy in, and it helps them be like, oh, there's something here. And whereas if he started with a 35,000-year-old entity, this sounds like a fiction story.
Yeah.
And people would be like, kind of turned off by it.
Yeah. And for me, like you said, that's how you started. For me, it was the more esoteric way that got into it.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah. So I would, listen to more of that stuff rather than the science. Because to tell you the truth, the science part hadn't caught up yet when I started listening to this stuff. And it was like, okay, I know this truth, but then it's like when a Dr. Joe or somebody came along, now you're coming from two different angles or two different ways of looking at it, and it's the same message. So there's validity that was adding into it. Because, I was raised here in the West with science and math and what have you. But at the same time, when I go to church every Sunday, they were talking about the spirit, not as clear as Ramtha is, and not as accurate as Ramtha. Like, Ramtha brings it to you to where you can say that. But I also understood, like, okay, I have to figure out a way to explain this to people without telling about a channel. So I've been listening to Bashar and Abraham over 15, 20 years.
Yep.
And even before YouTube would have them on, I had to go find stuff.
Yeah,
and
you
when I
had
explained it, I didn't want to tell people, like, this person who channels stuff. So I was trying to find ways, analogies. And then when I discovered Dr. Joe, he was doing it brilliantly. So I was able to piggyback off his information based on, and then you realize quantum physics.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like the theologian versus scientist, when they get together, I'm like, they're talking about the same thing. It's just the lingo or the way, the route to it is different.
I'm glad you brought up quantum physics, because I think that played a role in the lawsuit. I think so. Ramtha, was known, and Jay-Z Knight was known for bringing up quantum physics in their teachings. And Dr. Joe, of course, that's a big thing of his, is the quantum.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe really helped me understand the quantum. So I think some of that might have been tied in there too.
Yeah, but-
as far as what they were claiming was intellectual property, but it's like, no, get out of here. Quantum physics is quantum physics.
But chances are, like, again, I don't know, but chances are Joe Dispenza obviously was studying quantum physics way before that, because quantum physics really started in the early 1900s. Right around 1920 is really where the name stuck. But, Einstein, Bohr, all these guys were already in that field of quantum physics. So it's not
Max
something
Planck
new.
or whatever.
It's just that the way they're explaining quantum, like if I heard of quantum physics back in the 80s, I'm like, that's just another science. I've heard of it, but that was a science. Like, I'm trying to get I'm trying to just figure out like heat conduction. Like right now, I'm not trying to find quantum physics. It's like,
let alone jump
blow
into
my
the quantum.
mind. Yeah. And all of a sudden, but I heard the terms, and then it wasn't until I started reading books they started throwing the word quantum physics in there. It's when I went down the rabbit hole to studying it as best I could, and I found the double slit experiment.
Yep.
And a lot of these experiments came out new, but like there was a guy named Thomas Young in 1801, 1803, who was doing this experiment. He would take his curtains and close them, and then he'd crack them. He's in a completely black room. He took a mirror and he took a board and then an observation board, and because he didn't have technology back then, this is 1801, and he cracked, lit the light in, and it would hit a mirror and then reflect. Because as Newton looked at it, it was they were trying to determine, is it a particle or is it a wave? And Thomas Young came up with it and said it's both.
Really?
And people are like, how can it be? It's
how can it be both?
Yeah, and even today, like scientists will have like, how the fuck can that be? I'm like, well, it can't. Like water could be ice or steam, but you can't experience both of them at the same time. It's water, So that's like the best way of explaining it, but it still doesn't
Capture.
I know
what you mean.
It's very it's very difficult to.
It seems like magic.
Yeah. Actually, I just heard this. Who the hell was saying it? Oh, I was listening to Rupert Spira.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I love this quote. Every time I speak, I lie. But every time I keep my mouth shut, I'm a coward. So speak.
I love that.
Because this stuff, it's not an outright lie. It just doesn't come anywhere near the experience that we're trying to
Capturing
Yeah.
the full essence of what we're talking
And
about.
I think
how do you
that's-
describe God?
Yeah, and when you listen to someone like a Ramtha, all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I don't have to worry. I don't have to, everything comes my way type of thing, and I'm just giving a short view. But then when you go to Joe Dispenza, he puts you into the experience. And once you have the experience, the intellectual understanding of the principles that Ramtha is talking about start to resonate. Because if I just lecture about pizza, and everyone in the audience, none of them had eaten pizza, I'm like, I'm going to pique a curiosity because I'm going to compare it to some other food closer, but it's not it. But if I was to do that and offer up everyone pizza, and as they're eating it, I then start talking about it, I'm like, oh. So when Dr. Joe would do these particular type of breath works where you're squeezing and pumping up your spinal fluid, and pineal gland meditation is what he calls it, and start doing that, and all of a sudden after, I'm like, damn, okay, something happened. Something happened that never happened before. And there was an action-oriented thing I did, and I experienced this wonderful thing. Well, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And over time, you keep doing it, all of a sudden you understand completely what Ramtha is talking about. I understand it more.
And I think that's what's so cool.
Yeah, that's the brilliance. So when you marry the two together, you start to live this brilliant life. Rather than in the beginning, I was all intellectual because there wasn't like people talk, they like meditate. I'm like, okay, but no one was telling me how to meditate. And then all of a sudden Dr. Joe comes in, other people too, with the breathing. And, big one for me too was even before Dr. Joe, like I understood him in the intellectual studies, but before I went to him, I was studying not with him personally, but Wim Hof.
Oh, yeah.
So when I started doing this breathing, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to do better at the gym and feel better. I'm like, no, there was something psychedelic going on when I was doing the in and out mouth
100%.
breathing, like breathe and hold and like all this shit. All of a sudden, ideas would come to me and I couldn't put my finger on it because he didn't really talk about that.
Yeah,
Wim
you're
Hof
right.
would-
Wim Hof doesn't talk about
No, and
that
that
side
part,
of things.
like, yeah, but he was talking about healing mental health and physical health and all. Like, okay, there's a correlation there. So when you get all these people talking about the same thing, for me individually, I'm like, okay, I can see what I'm doing here.
Yes.
That's why as kids we love to run and do all this stuff because we're breathing. We're lost in this thing. We're not thinking. All of a sudden, we were these little spiritual beings with brilliant ideas. And this is where we want to get back to that childlike state and listen to like Ramtha. And you listen to it, it's like, yeah, it reminds you of the possibilities and the reason we're here. And it's not to worry. Worrying is a fool's game. I laugh at the fact that I worry that shit.
Yeah, right.
I really do.
Well, it's forgive them for they do not know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I look at that.
Yeah.
All the stuff I used to worry about, all the stories I used to carry, I forgive myself for all that. I'm
Yeah.
like, shit, I had no idea.
Because it's not really serious. And when you get, so this is where like a Ramtha will come in that, and Joe talks about this at some level, but where the Ramtha comes in is you really start to realize that we are eternal. So if I'm eternal, I can make mistake after mistake after mistake on this lifetime. I'm coming back, right? But now that I know I'm eternal and I understand the sequence of interference patterns, that's what quantum physics is all about. Is the interference pattern, is it constructive or is it deconstructive? And when I start to realize, okay, I know what constructive is and I know what deconstructive is, and deconstructive shows me how to get constructive. So all of a sudden, I'm actually having fun like I was when I was a child. And the fun I had as a child, some will say, well, it was because your ignorance to what could have happened. So now I can't get awarded because I was fed a lot of bullshit. So I can't forget it. That's, I can't get amnesia. But my wisdom can override it by saying all that information you had was bullshit, so I can erase it from my hard drive where I won't get an attachment to it. But I still remember being told that. But now it's like I also told there was Santa Claus. Like this guy came down my chimney. I'm like, wait a minute, we don't have a fucking chimney. Like I don't have a fireplace. I didn't give it.
What the hell's
But the
going
fact
on
that he brought gifts, I didn't give a shit how we got it.
Exactly.
Like
He
we
can
don't have a
break
chimney.
in.
Like wait a second. But my mind was, I'm like, fuck it. He's bringing gifts. I'm not going to question this shit.
I'm going to keep quiet about this one.
They can lie all they want. Yeah. Yeah, let's get benefit.
I like that. I think Dr. Joe. So you, at least for me now, I judge something by how it feels, and so like I'm not going to judge a person, a channeler, an entity, or anything like that until I personally hear the information that's coming through. Then my heart will tell me this is truth, or hey, this is some phony BS. And I think that was, I think Ramtha was that for Dr. Joe. I think he was like, there is something here.
Yeah.
There, I am learning about what this reality is. How can I take this information and put science behind it? How can I show this in brain patterns and with the neuroscience? How do I show this to the world? I think he had that analytical side, that doctor kind of mindset around him, or he was trying to bring it to the world in a more scientific manner.
Yeah, but I think really he obviously must have been learning about this. I don't know history, but when he had that accent, he told he had to have was a Bragdon Hicks, the rod on the spine, and he refused to do it because he was seemingly already awarded this information. So he went home, and to him at that moment prior, and I may be speaking out of turn here. To him, it was intellectual understanding, which he probably believed in. Now he's like, okay, I'm going to see if this works. And for 6 weeks, he laid on his stomach at his friend's house and pictured his spine being reconstructed.
Yep.
And he would go up, say, like a couple of vertebrae, and then all of a sudden a negative thought, I might never walk again. And he'd literally go back to the base of his spine and continue up. So there's
Such a powerful
there's
story.
33 vertebrae in the spine. So it took him almost 6 weeks to finally get through each vertebrae without a negative thought coming in. I'm like, and all of a sudden in 8 weeks he was walking around.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
I
so
love his
there's
story.
something here. All right, but he fulfilled this destiny because he knew at a level. Now he's like, okay, I'm going to actually practice this. And so once he realized I healed my spine without any surgery and just did it mentally, and again, when what you call Jay-Z Knight said that when she's in Ramtha, her DNA changes from when.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So Joe Dispenza essentially changed his DNA. So it's a very different way of looking at it. Did it heal, or did he get a new spine? Like, again, I'm not a scientist, but they have these studies where they'll have people with multiple personality disorder, and there's one really particular one. I forgot the woman's name, but she had 4 personalities, and in 3 of them, or one of them, she had cancer. But when she was in the other 3, cancer didn't exist. Now, the thing about multiple personality, you're not aware of the other personalities. See, I'm aware of my other personalities. My wife reminds me of them. So when she was in the other 3, when they tested her, cancer didn't exist. So
that's so cool.
Well, it was a completely different body, so to speak, but yet the attributes of how the person looked or whatever changed slightly, but not. They're recognizable.
Oh, I've heard about eye color changing.
Yeah,
like,
actually, yeah,
shit.
all that stuff. So there's something about this information to how much can I change, and then pull a Bruce Lipton into who wrote a book many years ago. I remember when it first came out, I was reading it, so I'm really into stuff, but man, it's been years. The biology of belief.
Yep.
When you change your belief, in other words, you let go of the character that you once were and come into a new one, your biology changes. So it's kind of like, oh, the old body had cancer. This is a new body. But people are like, no, it's the same body. I'm like, well, no. Every 7 years, according to most biologists, I guess, you have a new body. And I talked about this a lot, where I get 7, 14, 21. I'm just using these numbers, whatever, because some will say it's even quicker than 7 years, but so 7, 14, 21, 28, and so on and so forth. What's looking through these eyes right now, it's witnessing the experience in which I'm having, was in that 7-year-old body that's no longer here. So can I, moving forward, am I subject to what the outside world's telling me about my body? Like doctors saying, oh, you might live till 80 years old if you keep doing this or whatever. Oh, you're getting old, you wind down, you shouldn't hurt yourself. Well, get close to retirement, don't start a new business or whatever. Like all these things. And all of a sudden I'm like, no, because there's people breaking out of that. And I'm like, I joke about this, I was talking about earlier, where a lot of people my age are like talking about retirement. Like, when are you gonna retire? I'm like, I'm fucking just getting started.
Yep.
Retiring, I'm like, I'm just getting started. Like, I've been studying this stuff for like 25, 30 years, and I don't know what the fuck I was doing back then, but it's almost like recently I get it. It's imprinted into me, and I'm like, retirement. I'm like, what, are you kidding me?
Yeah, what's that?
It's like telling a kid at 11 o'clock in the morning to say, hey, your playground's closed. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm just getting started. I'm not getting ready to close.
And we know how this game works now, and it's our perspective is everything.
And the only reason I could tell my wife, like, well, if I could work and still get paid, I'm like, okay, this is very low thinking, but I get it because I used to be there, but I overcame that. I'm like, do you realize how abundant this universe is? You're just not letting it in. You're creating all these walls. So someone like a Ramtha comes along and talks about it in a way, and then you start working like with stuff with Dr. Joe. And obviously you go to Ramtha Institute. With close, she'll teach you all this stuff. And I looked on it recently. It's pretty damn affordable. If it wasn't an old website.
I didn't even look to see if she's like still doing classes.
Yeah, I just remember looking at it. I might have read it wrong, but I'm like, oh, this is, because, you go to Dr. Joe, you're going to be, it's still not ridiculous, but, like $2,000 for like cheap. A week. Yeah. No, but you're there for 7 days. That doesn't include the hotel and stuff like that. But, I'm like, hey, an investment of like, at the end of the day, like, I think for me, the investment was like close to $4,000 for plane tickets and everything else. I'm like, that was well worth it. Now, again, it isn't necessary to do that. You can do this all on your own, because even Dr. Joe talks about this here. Actually, the conference I was at, they had a woman come back that was talking about how she had cancer and it's no longer in the system. She did that just by reading his book, Becoming Supernatural. She never went to him. She never. Beautiful. So she wasn't at his 7-day retreat. She showed up at the 7-day retreat. I don't know if it was the first time she was there, but she got it just by reading his book, Becoming Supernatural. So, when you read that book, there's methods and stuff in there. Same with Ramtha. these methods. And I tell people, I'm like, are you doing it? They're like, no. I'm like, what are you waiting for? I'm like, because when you hear this information, when I used to hear information, I used to get excited. And then, so then I kept looking for every book, every audio tape, because back then it was audio tapes and stuff like that. And it was like, when I started learning to do these day-to-day practices, all of a sudden I was able to maintain this. Where, like, okay, this is true, but how do I get there? What are they talking about? How do you stay there? It's kind of like Abraham talking about the vortex. How do I stay in the vortex? And then she's like, well, it doesn't matter if you're staying there. You just have to know how to get back. Well, how do I get back? And then I started piecing stuff as a personal level together. But when I started studying Joe Dispenza and doing all these other type of meditations, I'm like, okay, there's something here. So if I keep doing this, let's see what happens. And all of a sudden, over time, it was no longer about the outcome. It was about the instant when I was doing it. And then ideas and synchronicity would just pop up, and I wasn't even looking for it. When I started, like, okay, I'm going to study this, and open my eyes, I'm like, okay, let's see if the Ferrari's here.
Yeah, right.
Ferrari never came, you know? And then you're like, fuck, this doesn't work. And then you realize, then it was Bashar who really nailed this home for me, was have zero insistence on the outcome. And everyone else talks about this. They really do. But he really put it specifically, and it's like, you don't need that thing. But when you don't need that thing, the paradox is things will show up in respect to your life that you're going to live. It's going to be part and parcel. So if a Ferrari is part and parcel of the story of why I came here, I will have a Ferrari. But right now, I don't give a shit about a Ferrari or anything else because I have a nice car anyway. But But if it's not part and parcel, so I don't worry about the outside world anymore. The outside world takes care of itself, and I just go forth and experience it. And I'm like, this is what they were talking about, but I didn't understand it until I fell into that field.
Isn't it funny? It's cool. Like, I know what you're saying, because it's like you get pieces from people, and then, like, as you start to compile them, it, like, gives you this clearer picture. Like, there was things that Dr. Joe taught me that that I could have never learned from Muji. And there was things from Muji where, shit, that guy taught me to open my heart like I never could have learned from Dr. Joe. There's so many I can bring. And it was bits and pieces of all these people that helped me to crack open.
Yeah, it's like the earliest musicians, and when I say earliest musicians, I'm talking about like the 1960s that came in with like everything from The Who to Rolling Stones to Zeppelin, all these bands. They came out of, it seemed like they came out of nowhere with this music because there wasn't anything like it prior. But yet they were studying, all of them were studying the blues. Mm-hmm. And then they would study some jazz and maybe study some folk music, right? And all of a sudden they put it together, and all of a sudden you got like, you got like Knocking on Heaven's Door by, Bob Dylan. And it's because but it was his song. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, like, you learn about this because you have to make it Mike Kitlis is, not Joe Dispenza, because we can't imitate and copy. You can, but you're just a karaoke individual.
Yeah, and you can feel through that.
You literally have to let go. Because I remember, like, when I was playing guitar early on, and I kept calling this guy, and my guitar teacher's name was Mike. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget this. I would learn every Van Halen song.
Hell yeah.
And he's like, there's other music out there. I'm like, no, there's not.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, get the fuck out of here. And he goes, listen, the reason I want to put other music in is not to be a pain in the ass, is because one day you're going to be stuck just trying to play Eddie Van Halen, and you're not going to be able to be your own musician. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, fine. Throw a song in there, and started doing it. So over time, I've learned my own style of music, and it's nowhere near Eddie Van Halen's, by the way.
Totally different.
Nowhere near it. But yet Eddie got me started, so to speak, and got me interested. And because he was like, okay, learn to make something different in the kitchen that no one else has made. But yet, you know what flour is, you know what sugar is, you learn how to mix it from that person. But then you have to step out of that and make it your own.
I love that.
And that's the brilliance, because we don't need to karaoke each other. Mm-hmm. We are all individual, sovereign people having this experience. Yes. Eddie Van Halen's, heroes were like, Eric Clapton, Chuck Berry, I imagine, stuff like that. But yet Eddie came, and his dad too.
Created his own path.
dad did finger picking and stuff like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, his dad was a musician. Both his parents were classical musicians. But
That's cool.
But he made it, like, he took it to the next level, and I think that's what. So come along here is Ramtha is doing her thing, and then Joe Dispenza comes out, and he used to go around touring with like Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and then he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and show people how to do it, and then he started these week-longs, and they're taking off.
Yeah,
and they're changing.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, because I have a whole community of people I know. I'm like, Cara, like good friend of ours.
Yeah,
we've
had him on the show.
Yeah, and I met him. Like I speak to him like a lot, and I just met him at Joe Dispenza.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
But that's there's something interesting about that. That's why I tell people, like, if something's pulling,
it's all connected.
Yeah. If you have interest in something's pulling you, go there, but don't try to get something out of it. See where it takes you. Mm-hmm. And where it's going to take you is back to who you really are. But if you're trying to get something out of it, I'm like, that's not who you are.
That's totally it.
You aren't the Ferrari. You aren't the big house. Those things will come if they're in direct relationship with your life. They'll come with ease, by the way. Mm-hmm. But once you let go and just have this brilliant experience, because children didn't want to collect stuff, right? They just went to the playground, played there, and left it there. Mm-hmm. And they had, because everyone goes back to their childhood. I'm like, why is that? I'm like, why can't we have that now? I wish I could go back. And like, you can't. But with wisdom, you could overlook all the programming that you were given and laugh at it. Like, the program, I remember the program, it doesn't have an effect on me like it did. And that's why if I tell stories about my child, people are like, oh my God, you were abused. I'm like, no, it wasn't abuse at all. I wasn't abused at all, because I didn't, like, if you attach a meaning to it, like, I'm like, I think it was funny. I think my childhood was hysterical, looking back now, because I would get upset. My child was almost like, the closest I could come to was like Malcolm in the Middle. Like,
That's a good show.
Like that type of shit.
That's funny as hell.
Or Raising Grace.
That's
like those shows cracked me up. Why? Because this is how I grew up, right?
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that. I always tell Kayla that. Like, I feel like I chose the most like American, like, ham and cheese, brown paper bag style life. Like, very, very like three-dimensional matrix sucked in. Like, I chose that like very Western American type of growing up. Like, you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like Houdini. It's like, hey, tie me up and put me in a milk carton and throw me under the water.
But we chose that shit.
Yeah, but like Houdini chose to get out of him. A milk container, whatever it was, and underwater upside down, and he'd do all these weird things. Why? To escape. Mm-hmm. So so if he came here already free as an angel, I'm like, oh, that's not much fun. Like, no, I want you to chain my ass up and
flip me upside down, dip me in some
throw
water,
me in the ocean, and just see if I get out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you pick the lock and you swim to the surface and everyone's clapping. Why would someone walk on a tightrope rather than just the sidewalk? Mm-hmm. I'm like, because there's amazing, there's something amazing about escaping the matrix.
There is.
That's why we're thrown into the matrix. Mm-hmm. But yet, once I escape the matrix, I don't leave it.
I
play in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
Yeah, I realize it's a game. Just kind of like, okay, I'm an actor on a set. Don't take it so serious. I'm like, I'm really not gonna get killed here, but it's gonna look like. And when they shoot me, I'm gonna act dead. I'm gonna like, oh, like you got me.
I'm gonna play along with this.
I'm gonna play along.
I love that. I've got, so there's 4 cornerstones that I wanted to mention to Ramtha's teachings that, through my research that they referenced. And so I thought we'd share those 4 like pillars, if you will, of Ramtha's teachings. So one is the statement, you are God. Okay, so this comes up throughout tons of different, spiritual, teachers, lectures, etc. It's in the Bible. Have I told you, you all are gods or whatever?
Yeah.
This is a forever type of concept that continues to come up. So the statement, you are God, that's cornerstone of Ramtha's teachings. The second is directive to make known the unknown. I thought that's cool because that's something we talked about. So to make the known unknown. So to stop reverting back to all the things we know and walk freely into the unknown.
And that's brilliant.
Well, that's the thing. The directive to make the known the unknown. We're always trying to go to the known.
That is the childlike state. The child had no idea.
Yeah.
And they ran to the park or wherever, and they didn't know what they were running towards, but the experience was absolutely amazing.
And that's the child making the unknown the known.
The known. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, we have to make the known the unknown.
Exactly.
And that's where heading into the unknown, and that's probably what Joe Dispenza talks about. That you're a nobody. And nobody. What he means is you become free of your character.
I like that you brought that up because there were certain things where I was like, "Oh shit! I wonder if Dr. Joe got this from Ramtha."
We're starting to piece of shit
that's
together.
What I mean. I was like, you can't find too much on this, so you're like, your imagination starts piecing shit together.
Joe Dispenza's probably listening like, these guys are freaking nuts.
These assholes have no idea. That has nothing to do with what I was talking about. Yeah. The third cornerstone that was referenced was the concept that consciousness and energy create the nature of reality. Again, this is a basic point for all things consciousness, Yeah,
I like to add to that because that's the interesting thing is because a lot of us are trying to control the outside world. And when you try to control the outside world, you literally decipher or you actually narrow down the field of energy. When you open up to whatever is, like you accept anything, your energy flow is greater and you actually have more control of the outside world. It's a paradox. Yeah. And that's what it is like the world's coming at you because there's so many people in it. I'm like, okay, like my achievement isn't to get this thing. My achievement is to act as if I had everything I needed all day long. And then all of a sudden you start to see things move your way. Rather than saying, I need this specific thing. No, open it up. And all of a sudden things come to you that are specific to you. And that's why they come into it. You recognize that because we have more energy when we let go of having this thing to happen or whatever. But when this has to happen, I narrow the field of energy down. Now I'm walking around like this and I can't see anything other than what's in front of me. Tunnel vision, yeah. Yep. So, yeah.
Great. The last one, fourth cornerstone, is the challenge to conquer yourself. And we all know it is you
I'm still
against
working on that one, baby.
Well, that's it. That's the point of this human experience, is that it is you against you. You're holding your own head underwater going, why can't I breathe? Why am I drowning?
Actually, it's funny because I brought this up earlier and I, had no way of thinking that it would come into this conversation. But it's kind of like I talked about the actors. Like you have it's kind of get to a point where what we're going to do is let go of a character per se and just step into a field of energy. It's kind of like if anyone out there have seen, there's a couple of TV shows and movies have done this. But Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of the shows. And what I'm about to tell you is like most of the people, not everyone, but most people come there, like Ted Danson plays Ted Danson. So he doesn't have to act. You know what I'm saying? He might embellish the way people might look at him and do this stuff, whatever. Larry David plays Larry David. And any guest star that came on, they played themselves. Instead of adding another character, and the reference point I'm saying is who we are witnessing in this isn't a character. We actually create a character. The ego does. Well, so the soul of the person would be like the Larry David playing out the show. This is who he doesn't need a script. So
there is no script.
Yeah, and it's. I hope I'm explaining it properly. But so when you start looking at it that way, you stop trying to create a new entity of a concept of yourself, and just open up completely. And whenever you walk into set, you're going to respond the way you're going to respond based off whatever. And all of a sudden, it's so much easier. And you don't need a script anymore. You don't need to pretend who you are. And that's like the brilliance of like.
That's what we're all running around doing.
Yeah, like what does someone think about me? So like, if Ted Danson had to play another character on Curb Your Enthusiasm, he wouldn't, But he's come on. It's like, what role is Ted Danson playing? And like, he's playing Ted Danson. He's actually playing himself. So we came here to play ourselves, but somewhere along the line, someone told us this is who we are.
Yeah.
And then
this is who you should be.
Yeah, and then I watched Happy Days and I got a leather jacket. And hey, walking around because everyone liked Fonzie and stuff. And then I added all these characters. Now I'm walking around. I'm a fucking lunatic, like a fucking lunatic. Like, who are you? I'm like, I don't even know. I got so many fucking characters. Yeah, like someday I'm a mobster, and because I just watched Goodfellas, I'm like, Are you fucking laughing at me?
Right.
You think I'm funny?
Right.
You think I'm funny?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so all of a sudden, you become like this psychopath.
But dude, that's like a great example of what we're all like wound up so tight, like trying to play these characters. Like, no, I'm the this, I'm the that, and you know, it's tiring. That's why we're so tired.
Let it all go and see what happens. And some of the greatest performances are people that performed in a whim. Like I remember, like a lot of these stories stick to me. And I'm trying to think who the actor was. I mean, it was not an actor; it was a musician. It was Woodstock, the original Woodstock. Mm-hmm. It came out, and what happened was they didn't realize about close to 400,000 people were going to show it. So a lot of the musicians couldn't make it to the show.
Well, yeah, they
because
couldn't.
of traffic. Mm-hmm. So, I forgot who the musician was. I think it was Hayes. He was on stage playing his set, and they're like, "You got to keep playing because there's nobody left." Yeah. He's like, "I'm out of songs."
Yeah, what do you want me to do?
And he wrote and conducted the music, the song. Oh my God, I'm telling the story, but I forgot the song. Mm-hmm. Right on stage.
Holy shit!
Like kind of like I would sit in the studio and just come up with something. He did it right on stage and played it. It came to him right then and there, because he was like, "Dude, my set's over." Mm-hmm. Like, but there's no one left. Yeah. They had to start helicoptering people in, and I should know this. I think it was Freedom. I forgot what the song was, but. He literally
was that a popular song of his?
Oh, one of his best songs.
See, that's so cool.
And he's like, all right, and he's just, he's a musician, so he just like, all right, fuck it, there's a bunch of people out here smoking dope, so I'm just gonna play whatever. See what happens.
Exactly, we're just gonna go for it.
And he started playing the song, and it's like, it's the first time he ever played it. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't working on some other place or whatever didn't come to him, but he literally wrote the song and played it on stage and never performed it before. And I think that's the miracle of that stuff. Like even like when Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young came out, they never harmonized before Woodstock.
See, that's cool.
So there's these brilliant moments in time, and so why are these only, like 69?
The field
like,
allowed for it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, why aren't they happening every day? Mm-hmm. It's because we're bogged down with you can't do that. That's impossible. Mm-hmm. So just grabbing a guitar and sitting on any corner and writing like the most brilliant song out of whim should be something that we should be used to.
Yeah. Not
like, oh, we gotta wait. We gotta wait another year.
We gotta do this.
We gotta wait another 50 years before another Stairway to Heaven comes out of somebody. Like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And I believe it's kind of like, why did they stand out? It's because we bog ourselves and we cloak ourselves so deeply. It's kind of like if I wore an eye mask for long enough, I would literally think I was blind. Mm-hmm. And we have so much information that's not necessary for us impacted onto our beings that we can't get to the root of who we really are.
Yeah.
So we have to let go of all that stuff. And somebody like a Ramtha and Joe Dispenza and the numerous other people, they show you how to do it. And once you let this go, you then discover who you really are, why you came here, and then you start laughing at the fact that you were doing karaoke on every other day of the week, trying to image someone. Like
trying to pick your character, your flavor of the week.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
a great analogy. These cornerstones, though, that we're talking about, these aren't stuff that I would say, oh, no, that's incorrect, or I disagree with that. No, these all resonate to me. And that's when I was listening to this, I was like, okay, there's the core of this, there's some there. And I think that's what's so cool, because again, Ramtha has when you're doing your research, there's like controversial stuff where it's like calling Ramtha a cult and all this, and then you see the lawsuit stuff with Dr. Joe, and you're like, what the hell's going on here, But like in my opinion, that's like the details. That's the human side of all of this, and trying to interject the human, the ego into it. At its core, I believe the teachings are there, Yeah,
if you were living a supreme life, you wouldn't recognize a cult to actually condemn it. Mm-hmm. Again, like discernment, and what I mean is you wouldn't be in a cult either. Mm-hmm. So people are scared out there, so discerning what's a cult and what's not. Back in the day, anything that was outside of the church per se seemed like a cult.
Well, and if we were to pull up the definition, do you have Google? can you type in cult defined? Like, what's the definition? Because by definition, all religions are a cult.
Yeah, let me.
I've looked this up before, and it's like when you read the definition of what a cult is, you go, "Holy shit!" You're like, "That's kind of what all of religions are."
Yeah, well, everything is. Yeah,
you know?
The term often applied to any religious and philosophy group with unusual beliefs and rituals. Well, this is kind of explaining it. Often characterized by the extreme development of leaders and ideologies. Let me see if they have
That's like the AI version.
Yeah, like everything's AI now.
Yeah, where you Google it.
But anyway, like, because, let's see here. Yeah, I don't. That's the thing about Googling shit. They don't.
I know. Well, now it's like weird.
Yeah, now it's just like some 15-year-old kid gave me a definition.
It's the AI stuff that they added, where now it like adds a little bit of opinion
All right,
to it.
It can also be referred to small groups with intense interest in a particular person.
You see what I mean? Yeah, like when you get the actual definition, you go, "Holy shit, that could be any religion." You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is some truth to a cult, right? There is some truth.
Well, that's what brings people in. Yeah,
but if you think it's the person you have to keep showing up for, like in other words, Mike and I are talking about this information, but we didn't invent the goddamn stuff.
No,
nor did Ramtha. Mm-hmm. You know, because say Ramtha's 35,000 years old. How many?
35,000.
35,000 years old. Well, the information came before her. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, or him.
Yeah.
So the information's always been available. Like, it's kind of like the movie screen's always been there. What movies have over the years been laid onto it through pixels and modulations? Mm-hmm. But the sky's already been there.
And that's what God is. It's everything.
God is everything containing within it. So you can't go beyond.
We're trying to chip away, trying to define this as if it's something, but it's like it's everything. And it's like we can't it can't be defined. By defining it, you're limiting it.
Yeah, and the human brain can only handle so much.
No, totally.
Yeah, I'm told that a lot.
I just thought the cornerstones were cool. I thought we could cover that because then people can see, okay, there's some truth here. And then now we got a clip of Ramtha. Let's let Jay-Z Knight channeling Ramtha. Let's let this one play.
All right, perfect. I'm looking forward to this one.
Quantum physics is important to you because it's the one science that's on your side about your abilities. And so, is everything we think made manifest? Absolutely. Well, then why don't I know that my thinking is being made absolute? It has every single day. It never occurred to you to create your day. So your day was always whatever you perceived it was going to do to you. Now you're about to do to it. So, what then should you do with this science? Well, you should study more about it. You should learn how important you are within the realm of all matter, and that whatever you think indeed does matter, and that it matters in the way that it affects your life every day. So, why was that catchy little phrase used in What the Bleep? Because students in this school are taught that they are divine people, and that to let life happen to you would be irresponsible. But to create the way life happens to you is indeed a divine right that every student here learns to have. The greatest position we never want to find ourselves in is being a victim of anything. It is all right to be surprised and charmed by the measure which we could create. But it's quite a different story at the end of the day, that we have regret and hurt feelings, and that somehow we are injured by the day. The last thing we want to become in life is a victim. And in this school, the way that we get on and make life much more beautiful is that we learn that if we take responsibility of how the day is going to happen, then at the end of the day, we are enjoying the results of that experience instead of wailing that we didn't know any better. So it's the act of responsibility. And it is being the observer in quantum mechanics that no matter what you think, it is going to manifest. So why not construct thoughts that would create a day that would bring splendor and beauty and ingeniousness and wellness and joy, or whatever other adventure you would like to have. So the idea in what the bleep was is that we would never allow ourselves to become a victim ever again, because once we are in the knowledge, then we want to make life happen rather than allowing it to happen to us.
That's brilliantly said.
I know. I love that clip.
Yeah. Because whenever you listen to that, now I'm deeper into this stuff. When I first listened to it, like, it seemed to be truth. But then an old belief comes and says, yeah, but that's not you.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, yeah, this is common understanding. So, and we see this now. There's something weird that was happening when I was a kid. I shouldn't say weird, but there was a phrase that we all said. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Mm-hmm. What the parents were saying is like, yeah, if someone hits you, get hurt, that's one thing, but stop getting bothered by what people say. Mm-hmm. Stop being a victim. Mm-hmm. Stop being a victim. Go figure yourself out. Like, you're not a victim here. And all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, someone tried to throw in there that words hurt. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they hurt if you believe they'll hurt. Mm-hmm. You know, why did I get upset because somebody said I was ugly? You know? Mm-hmm. Because I attach myself solely to the outside world and its responses to me.
The character.
Where when I come in and change my field of energy, I then traject out into the world what I want to be. So it's kind of like wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to have an amazing day. And what's an amazing day feel like? This is what it feels like. And then all of a sudden you start to notice all these things happening. Mm-hmm. And then the better at it, you get a little more specific with it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, you know, but you don't get too attached to having this outcome. Then, like, when she mentioned the whole surprise thing, yeah, you get surprised. And like whenever like a synchronicity happens with me, and, you know, a couple of them happened this morning with me and Mike.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, with the Justin Bieber song. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you laugh at it. It just, it instills into me, this system is brilliant. But we don't trust it.
No.
Like the GPS.
We trust the opposite of it.
Yeah. So GPS says make a right-hand turn. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to make a left. What the fuck does it know? Mm-hmm. And then and the whole other, no, the rest of my drive, it's recalculating.
No, it's more like society told me I should turn right.
Yeah, exactly. So,
you know?
Yeah.
The GPS is, we have this thing that's like, hey, go this way.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, my mom and dad said I should go this way.
Yep. So I keep going this way.
Teacher said I should go this way.
Wonder why I'm completely lost in the world.
Television told me I should go this way.
Yep. Yeah, everyone's telling me which way to go. Mm-hmm. And I get lost. And then they sell me medication to make me feel like I'm not lost.
Yep. It's a great business model.
Or they distract me so I don't, like, I forgot, like, when you get distracted, you forget you're lost. Mm-hmm. But then when the show's over, I'm like, God damn it, man, I'm lost. And then like, no, you're right where you're supposed to be.
We're going to have you go talk to a doctor about you. We're going to have you complain about all the reasons you feel like you're a victim. Mm-hmm. You're going to sit in a room, you're going to talk about all this really painful stuff that brings your body into the moment. So your body thinks it's happening over and over. And then we're going to sedate you with this medication that you're going to come back for each month. You know, and, you know, on top of that, you're going to have side effects from this medication that will lead to other medication that is needed. That's this loop that we've been taught.
Yeah.
And it's weird, you know, like, why would you be going in to sit down with some, you know, individual and drudge up all of these painful things and talk about them as if they're, you know, happening now, because that's how our body knows it, you know, and not changing any type of perspective to it, or only looking at it as from how wronged you were and how much of a victim you've become. We have elevated that pain in our society as normal. We need to be empathetic towards it, rather than like, it's like we're honoring this like thorn, you know, that we have, rather than saying, hey, we can pull that out.
And we curse the rose garden.
Yeah.
It's the devil.
And blame them.
Yep, the rose garden now becomes the devil.
You should have never been wrong like that.
It reminds me of like the Bob Newhart show.
I don't know that show.
It's fucking old, dude.
Bob Newhart?
Yeah. Well, there was a scene, and it's a famous scene. It keeps popping up. He plays a therapist. He's a psychologist in it. Mm-hmm. And I can't recall what the patient was saying. And he's like, stop it. Just stop doing it. Stop it. Like, why are you doing it? Stop it. Instead of like, let's go back to why you do this. He's like, just stop it. Mm-hmm. Like, just stop it. And everyone that watches that show, like you pull it up on YouTube or whatever, that scene from Bob Newhart's show, and him saying stop it, you laugh your ass off because it's fucking true.
Yeah.
Just stop it. Stop that. Why does chocolate cake hurt my stomach? Just stop eating it. Like, don't go to the doctor and get tested.
Yeah, right.
Because the doctor's going to like, yeah, I know, you're allergic to chocolate, but why? What can I do to get over it? Just stop eating chocolate cake. What the fuck? Like, seriously? It's not that difficult.
Right?
It's like, stop jumping off buildings and you won't break your leg, all right? It's gravity. Like,
exactly.
But why? Why does my leg break? Because you keep jumping off buildings. Like, stop it. And we laugh about it because there's some real deep truth there. And this information is going to free you from the matrix and allow you to have fun in the matrix. Again, you're in this world.
Not of it.
Not of it. And there's another way of looking at it. You're not of this world, but you're in it. Have fun. So when you look at it from the other way, it's like, yeah, we came here to have fun in this world. It's like, oh, I'm not the roller coaster, so I'm leaving the park. Like, no, it offers up a great experience, that you wouldn't have otherwise. But don't get so caught up in like it's life and death.
I like that she talked about the victim aspect, or Ramtha discussed the victim aspect, just because that's really prevalent in our world today, and they've been hammering this home at least the last 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
I've watched this really happen, with the millennial generation, even the generations now coming, Gen Z and the Gen Alpha and all that. Like,
they have Gen Alpha now?
Yeah, that's Killa's kid's age.
Oh,
it's
all
Gen
right.
Alpha.
When I was a kid, there wasn't any
you're
labels.
Gen X.
Yeah, but we didn't have a label Gen X.
Oh,
if someone told me I was Gen X, like the word X would, I'm like, oh, fuck you. I'm not X'd out. Like, I'm still going.
What is this shit?
Like, like X sounds like something like you're dead.
Yeah, right.
Like you're gone. But then it's like we didn't label, like, I mean, we knew what the greatest generation was because they came out of the Great Depression.
Oh yeah, that's before baby boomers, right? That's called the greatest generation.
Yeah, the greatest generation. They came out of the Great Depression. Then they went into World War II and changed things. So that was the greatest generation. But we didn't really. And then baby boomers. But we were just fucking kids from the 70s and the 80s. Like, that's all we were. All of a sudden, I heard of millennials and they're like, oh, you must be Gen X. I'm like, don't fucking call me Gen X.
When did we make this
like,
shit
what the fuck? Like, all of a sudden, labeling, like,
that's so funny.
I thought that was funny.
Yep. But it's just.
But guess what? There's assholes in every generation.
and a lot of trauma being passed down from every generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of bullshit stories and conditioning and everything that we're taught. Why you can't be happy. What success looks like. If you don't have this, you can't be is happy. We were taught that like happiness is something that is earned, and that you have to have enough of money, enough. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, the outside world is a determination of how you feel. So it's like, how do I feel? Oh, let me look at my bank account. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. You should. It's kind of like, and I used to do this, years ago, because I would hear about these sleep studies, and everyone sleeps, so everyone knows about these. Wake up in the morning, and my eyes would open up, and I look at the clock. I'm like, okay, I went to bed, and I go, okay, have a good day.
Got enough sleep.
But if I went like this, I'm like, let me recount. Something's wrong here. I only got 4, but yet I'm awake, and then I'm like, oh shit, I only got 4 hours of sleep. All of a sudden, my energy dips down, and then I'm like, well, what's going on, Frank? I only had 4 hours of sleep. I'm like, but the second I woke up, I was awake, and this mental thing got in there, and the 4 hours and my definition of good sleep didn't match, and it sucked my energy out of my system. It had, like, when I wake up and I'm tired, I don't have to count. When I wake up and I'm awake, I don't have to count. I already know what it feels like. That's the brilliance of life. I know when something tastes good. I don't need to convince me of it. I know when I'm full. Well, sometimes I do.
We've gone so far away from just trusting our natural ability to know.
Yeah.
And that's what we're coming back to, guys, is like, we're coming back to this knowing, I don't need you to tell me something. How does this feel to me?
Yeah.
That's what we're coming back to.
Yeah, discernment. And when you start to peel all these beliefs away and all these things, go down to the root, the knowing of going into the unknown, life becomes brilliant again, like you were a child. Again, it is absolutely possible.
Well, that's the thing about like the world we live in today. It's like we don't even know like like, do you like something? Somebody's like, well, shit, let me check my Facebook and let me check my social media. Let me check CNN. Am I allowed to like this?
Yeah.
That's kind of this weird world we live in.
Yeah, you ask a question like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and then you're like, "What state do you live in?" So I can tell you.
Exactly. And so it's just so weird this world we live in, because it's like, hold on, is that been approved? Has that not been approved?
Yeah.
Is this cool? Is this not cool? Rather than just knowing when something feels right or when something feels off.
Yeah, and then it's only for that information is for the moment in which you're in, not for any other moment.
Exactly, because it can change.
It will.
That's the
it
another
will
thing.
change.
And something is not black and white. We treat everything like it's black and white. And something today might be okay that in 5 years from now, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Years ago, like all these studies came out with this was good for you, and then they went back and forth.
Shit, doctors were prescribing cigarettes back in the
Yeah.
day.
Do you know what was funny though? I remember when
During pregnancy.
the egg thing came out.
What do you mean the egg thing?
So years ago, like eggs were always good for you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then there was a point where eggs weren't good for you.
Yep.
This is fucking funny, dude. I'm not gonna tell you. Like, I grew up, I hated eggs.
Oh, really?
Every fucking Saturday or Sunday, Mom was, "Would you like some eggs?" I'm like, "Mom, my name is Frank. I'm your son. I don't like eggs."
I've never had.
The only time I ever had any remote eggs was on my French toast.
Okay.
But she kept asking me want eggs, and one day I was reading. Like I started getting into lifting weights like in my 20s because when I was boxing I didn't really lift weights. All of a sudden they started talking about protein. Like one of the best sources of protein is eggs. I'm like, go figure. So I started eating eggs, right? So I'm like, I'm fine. Like these pretty good.
Right.
All of a sudden an article came out. Eggs are no good for you.
I know.
Like, motherfucker.
That was
I
like
just
early
got used to
2000s,
them, and now
right?
they're no good for me.
Wasn't that like early 2000s? Is when the egg thing found?
Well, then it was like, okay, it's not the egg, it's the yolk. Take the yolk out.
Yeah.
So then you're eating egg whites.
Man, we've been bullshitted by so many.
Now it's like, no, you eat the whole egg.
God.
And then now I'm like, you know what? If another study comes out on eggs, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just going to eat my damn eggs. But it was funny. Just as I got used to eating the eggs, because I had to, they just pulled the carpet out from me. I'm like, you like,
I just started this.
Yeah.
Guys,
now
come on.
You could have came out with this article a year ago, and I'm like, shit. I'm telling my parents you should be eating eggs, but no. And you know what was funny?
Oh God.
I was. I remember. I was like I'm trying to think how old I was. Like in my early 20s. So I was already moved out of the house. I started eating eggs.
Yeah.
And one day, I came to my parents' house. I'm like, hey.
Got any eggs?
Like, Ma, can we have some eggs? She's like, I knew I'd break you down. You know what's
Your
funny?
mom.
I got pissed at my mom. Like,
so
no, it was an article in Muscle Magazine.
Yeah,
Had
right.
nothing to do with you. He's like, yeah, you tell yourself.
You're
whatever
like,
you want.
sure, honey.
See, all these years of me breaking you down. I'm like,
Your mom's so funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Like,
She's like, I got you.
I got you. It was a long fucking journey, but we got you there.
Exactly. Implanting
I
that
wish
subconscious
I
mind.
started eating eggs behind her back after
Year
that.
after year.
Yeah.
Yeah, never showing her. Never letting her see you.
Yeah.
God.
Oh shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's life. Have
That
fun
is
with
life.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, have fun with it is right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this experience, is to be. Come here, exist, observe, play with, experiment, witness. Like there's so many great things out there happening every single day, yet we keep our laser weird tunnel focus on only bad shit.
Open it up and see what happens.
Open it up.
See what you're drawn to and act on it as best you can with zero insistence. This is a Bashar formula, and it works. Zero insistence on the outcome, and stay in that high place of happiness and positivity. Because like, if you realize I don't know what's exactly what's going to happen, how can you be negative about the situation?
Correct.
All right, and then head out into the world.
That's a damn good point.
Yeah, like you don't know what's going to happen. So, but I'm going to stay excited, and in that excitement, you start to you lose time. Things seem to speed up. The gestation period of things speed up. Everything speeds up. Because why? Because you enjoy the process.
Yep.
If a woman's pregnant for 9 months and she enjoys the process, this 9 months just seems shorter.
Yep.
I would never know.
Funny how it works.
But the more we enjoy stuff, it seems like time is compressed. It's a very weird thing, but enjoy it. If you set out today, I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep my energy in my heart, whatever I have to do, a couple modalities, whatever, and then watch what happens. When the synchronicity happens, all of a sudden you don't need to go to the breath work. You know, 'cause the outside world is reflecting back. Oh, I'm smiling. If I keep looking at the mirror and I keep smiling, I'm going to keep smiling. Right? But if I looked at the mirror at the first and I was frowning, I have to turn away from the mirror to create a smile. And then I look back. Okay, that's better. There you go. Here's a Frankie I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love this episode because it was cool. Seeing Ramtha, so I never, like, Ramtha was never a thing. I remember seeing Ramtha in What the Bleep Do We Know? I do remember that, but I never had, like, listened to the channeling. I had never gotten into that. And most importantly, the reason I wanted to do this was I had no idea the influence that it had on Dr. Joe. And I consider myself, you know, a Dr. Joe fan. I love his work. I feel like I know a lot about, you know, him and his story, if you will. And so when I heard about this, I was like, wow, we got to cover that. We need to share this little connection here with an audience.
And this is cool. What Ramtha was to What the Bleep Do We Know, Abraham was to The Secret.
Yeah.
But most people don't know that because Abraham never made it.
Actually on it.
Yeah, she was actually filmed.
Oh.
So supposedly there's like 2,000 videos out. The first ones actually had her on it. So everyone in it, all the talking heads that were in it, ever from Proctor to you know, all these other people that were on there, were all talking about Abraham's work.
Interesting.
So when they took her out, they had to make it like there was her own discovery. So, but Ramtha was actually in What the Bleep Know, explaining the behind the scenes, because, you know, here's a person that's 35,000 years worth of information, can be more accurate of explaining it. So what Ramtha did, one channel, and another channel did for The Secret. And I think that's why The Secret was a little like weird, because it didn't fully explain it, because we didn't know what Abraham's works.
Yeah.
So
that was missing from the actual Secret.
Was missing. But it all ties in.
That is cool.
And that's the brilliance of this life that we're in. It's a brilliant dance. Just, if you lose your you know, your footing, just go back to the 1, 2, 3 and dance. Boom. You don't need to start the dance over. You just pick up from where you are.
That's exactly
because you can't. There's no going back anywhere.
What's over is over.
Yeah,
and that's the cool part about this experience.
Take a deep breath and get back into the rhythm. Step back into it.
Thank you guys for tuning in today's episode. It was great to be here with you. Again, we were covering Ramtha and Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's a lot of great info online, guys. Dive in deep to it. Check them out on YouTube. Look at their stuff. If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe on our YouTube page. We are YouTube/Perspective Shift Now. And then we've got you listening to us on Spotify, Apple Music. Thank you guys for all tuning in.
Yeah, we appreciate it, right? All right, well, much love and peace out.
See you guys next week.